drift away or stay forever and a day. It's Rhyme and Reason 601.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why.
Hey there, Tony here again. Finally, I kind of had a big blank spot there, didn't I? I've upgraded some equipment, and I've been making a lot of changes around here in the old Funder studio, so it's taken a little while to kind of get files where they're supposed to be, and I've had issues with cloud files. Don't get me started. Anyway, you heard me talk about there at the beginning, drift away or stay forever and a day. Remember that song by Dobie Gray, Drift Away? Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll. You remember that one, right? It was a big hit for him back in, 1973. I remember I really liked that song. I mean, the very first time I heard it, I liked it. And I think it was Conway Twitty who did a country version of the song, but I didn't like that one. And I mean, from the very first time I heard it. I mean, sorry, his voice and style, they just kind of go against the grain of my musical taste. I'm not a Conway Twitty fan, and I don't know. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I did like Dobie Gray's version of it, and that song for Dobie sold over 1 million copies, and to this day, I get that old 73 nostalgic feel when I hear it. I don't actually hear it very often because I don't really turn on the radio all that often, and when I do, I turn it off pretty fast because there's so much junk, commercials. You notice that? If you try to listen to talk radio and keep up on what's going on, in our wonderful things that are going on politically and all that, it's just hard to listen to talk radio because it's like they're taking breaks every 3 minutes and then have 5 minutes worth of commercials. And boy, did I get off on a rant right there. I wasn't even going to talk about all that. I just guess it flowed right out of me because of everything that's going on, getting nostalgic. But as it turns out, Dobie Gray died this month back in 2011. He died on December 6th back in 2011. Apparently, he had complications after he went through cancer surgery. And I read an article about him that said that he discovered gospel music through his grandfather, who was a Baptist minister. And I can relate to that because my grandmother was a Baptist. So I hope Mr. Gray was able to drift away into heaven. I hope that. But if you've tuned into the Rhyme and Reason podcast here for any time at all, you know that I don't typically bring up a story like this without somehow tying it to eternal principles, right? Well, that's true for this time too. And that's because in the past couple of years especially, I've read about or I've heard about a lot of Christians drifting away from God. And while that's a disturbing trend, it doesn't really come as a surprise if you read the Bible, because Paul wrote about it in his first letter to his protege Timothy, and that letter would be called 1 Timothy. What a coincidence, right? He said to Timothy, he said something like this, actually said exactly this. Well, he didn't say it in English, but you know what I'm saying. He said, "Now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron." That doesn't sound all that great, does it? It sounds kind of rough. People are giving up their religion, so to speak, giving up their faith, leaving God, drifting away. He talks about it in another book where he calls it the great falling away, and it's also described as the apostasy. It's a really serious drift, Dobie Gray was just, give me the beat, boys, free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. And that's just drifting away in your thoughts, nothing too challenging about that. But when you do this thing about drifting away from your Creator, then he has eternal consequences. The subhead in the New King James Version of the Bible calls it the great apostasy, and the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines apostasy as an act of refusing to continue to follow, obey, or recognize a religious faith. Yeah, when you give heed to those doctrines of demons and you have no problem speaking lies and hypocrisy, you've pretty much made it an act of your will to rebel against God. But I can tell you, and I've said it before many times right here on the old podcast, that ain't going to go well for you. And you're liable to start feeling like the words in Dobie Gray's song where he says, day after day, I'm more confused, yet I look for the light in the pouring rain. You know, that's a game that I hate to lose. I'm feeling the strain. Ain't it a shame? Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. Yeah, you want to free your soul? Give it over to your Creator. You'll be free indeed, forever. All right, that does it for this episode of Rhyme and Reason. Thanks so much for tuning in. I promise it won't be quite so long before the next one. But until then, remember, life has rhyme and reason because God made it.
There's a